All right, so I want to talk to you guys for a minute with my little fuse panel here in the background right here, just for staging if nothing else, but talking about the proper wiring size and the proper, I guess, way to wire things, because I openly admit that I have a bad habit of just rednecking things, just hooking a gator clamp right to the battery, and it's garbage. So I'm actually trying to do this right on this tractor, and in doing that I stumbled across a situation that it's gonna throttle me. It's gonna hold me back from what I want to do. So I've got to actually do a little bit of an upgrade here. The lights that I'm putting on the tractor, they're 48 watt LEDs. Now the quick math on how you convert wattage and amperage and voltage is I've got a 12 volt battery. I've got a 48 watt light. You take your wattage divided by your voltage, and that is the amperage. So in my case, 48 watt light divided by a 12 volt battery, that light is pulling 4 amps. Now you have to make sure that you've got the right wire size that can support that amperage. In my case, these little dinky wires, honest to God, I don't know what they are, like 20 gauge, maybe 22, they're tiny. But I'm gonna assume that the tiny little wires that the factory put on here, I'm gonna assume were rated for the amps. Now the problem is, the circuit that I want to run my lights on is a 15 amp circuit, and it's wired accordingly. Well, I want to run 4 lights, 4 amps, that's 16 amps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upgrade this circuit to a 20 amp circuit. Doing that means I have to upgrade all the downstream wiring, which is fine because I wanted to upgrade the wiring anyway. Yes, I discovered that the factory wiring is still here, and it would have been great to use, but I can't just plug into the factory wires. It's not going to work. I can't figure out what that plug is. So I'm going to be replacing all the plugs anyway. I might as well replace all the wires. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to upgrade the low beams. Seems kind of counterintuitive. I was getting uncomfortable. I'm going to upgrade the low beam switch to a 20 amp fuse. And what that's going to let me do is run 4 of the 4 amp or 48 watt lights. I'm going to put 2 on the back, 2 on the front, because you guys know before when I made the video about initially wiring the lights on this tractor, I had it lit up like Christmas. I like to have a lot of light. I find myself working at night often, like this video. So I want to have really good light on this machine that I can take it and I can park by the sawmill or do something like that and use it to light it up. So we're going to put 4 lights on the low beam switch, which really would be just all your chassis lights. And I might even see about putting some little smaller lights, because what we don't have is on the sides of the tractor, there's no lighting. Now normally you don't need it, right? Just don't run over stuff. But I thought it might be kind of handy if I could find a way to put a light that would light up down here to the side. And you could do a really little LED light, and it could still work on that low beam circuit. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the low beams as my main chassis lighting. And then I've got these 2 lights that I added on the boom of the front end loader. And the reason I put those up there was so that if you're carrying something like a big round bale or something on your front end, it's going to block your front chassis lights. You can't see. So the lights on the boom of the loader hopefully will see over or around that. That was the whole point. So you don't have to pick your load way, way up in the air to be able to see. That's the point anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run those lights on a plug that'll be on the high beam setting, which is also a 15 amp circuit. So that's more than enough. I don't have to change that fuse any. So what that will do is that will put the bucket lights on a separate fuse entirely. So when I take the bucket off and I unplug that plug, I don't have to worry about that plug getting damaged somehow or shorting out and messing up my main chassis light. So it actually keeps them on 2 separate fuses. So what we're going to do, we're looking in here at our fuse panel, and I'm actually going to have to show this as a, well, I don't know. I don't know how I can get you guys in here. Let me flip the video around for it, okay? So I really wanted to share this because this is something new to me. I've never rewired a fuse panel before, but these plugs, they're just simple push-in plugs. I've already pulled this one out just for an example, but all it is, it's crimped on the wire here, but you can see it's got kind of a, it's got just a little bit of a splay to it, right? And it's got a little bit of spring. Now this slot right here is where your fuse actually sets in. So I can take take a fuse here, simple bladed fuse, and I pulled this wire because this circuit wasn't hooked up anyway. But see, that's where the blade of your fuse snaps right in there. Whoops. Whatever. I'll get it. Like I said, it wasn't used anyway. But these little tabs here, they bell out just a little bit. So you crimp your wire on, in this case, and different fuse panels might be different, but it just shoves right through the back of the fuse panel. You just shove it in, and you have to find a way to get a little bit of force on this, maybe get a flathead screwdriver or something to push on the back of that tab, but you're just going to push it through until it snaps into place. So I might be able to, it's going to be difficult one-handed, but I'm going to just take my little flathead screwdriver and I'm just going to push right here on the back of that brass tab. Oh, it's bending. Yeah, I don't know. I might not be able to get it. But you get the point. I mean, that's how I got it out. What I wanted to tell you guys was actually how to pull it out in the first place. And to do that, there's no fancy, and again, this is on this Kukja, this Century tractor. There's no fancy locking tab. So see, here's the face of that terminal. So you just take your screwdriver and just find a way to push against those tabs. Just push them back, work the top, work the bottom, whatever. And it's kind of difficult to get on this one because this pipe is right in my way. But use whatever you can find. Use a punch, use whatever you can get that gets in there and gets a good even push on the face of that tab. And it'll just pop right out the back end. Now I'm going to be upgrading the wire size a little bit, and I'm hoping because I have, where'd we go? Okay, here. I'm hoping because I have a couple plugs that, yes, by factory standards they were used, and maybe someday I will replace them and reuse them, but for right now they're not in use. So rather than have to go to town and buy a whole pack of these little fuse box push pins, I think I'm just going to rob those because I only need one, and I think I've got one already, the one I was just working with. I've got one that I can pull, and I just have to use it for the wire out from my low beam settings. My low beam right now has 2 wires coming out of it, 2 little tiny wires. And so I guess if you're splitting the load across 2 wires, it'd be okay, but I don't want to run double tiny wires all the way. I want to run a single wire, at least if I can. I'll actually have to look at what size the new wires that I have. Ooh, I might be running down the wrong rabbit trail here. The thing is, I don't know, coming into my first headlight on the front, that first plug, I have dual wires, but the other plug only has 1 black on red wire, so I don't know where they split, and I don't know why, and I don't know how I would track that. So anyway, odds are I'm going to end up replacing it. I know I'm going to end up replacing it because I just don't trust it. I'm just going to pull those wires out, leave them dangle on the factory harness. I'm not worried about it. I'm not going to cut them off or cannibalize them. I'm just going to leave them hanging there. They won't have any juice on them because I'm not going to be using them, although I guess eventually I should take them all off. Alright, I'm getting distracted. I'm starting to ramble. Maybe I'm hot. Anyway, point is, I wanted to talk about the importance of proper size wire, proper size fuses. What would if I don't upgrade any of this and I go ahead and run the 4 lights like I want to, maybe there's a chance that it would never be a problem. And what I could do is I could just take a 20 amp fuse and shove it in that slot, and maybe it'll be okay. Maybe it'll eventually heat the wire up and the wire will catch on fire. So you have to make sure that your wires downstream of your fuses are rated to hold whatever the fuse is rated to hold. And that's the same, automotive versus residential, whatever. It's the same thing. You can size your circuits just about however you want, but you always have to make sure that everything downstream of a control point, such as a fuse or a breaker, is set to carry more than what the upstream control would carry. So your upstream control will always fail, as it's supposed to. Anyway, so yeah, just wanted to mention that. Wanted to show how on this particular fuse panel, how you get those out. You just shove them out just push on the front, shove them out the back like that. So I'm going to see what I can find. I got to go look at my wires that I got and see. I think it's a little bit bigger. I got to review my sizing chart and see if I don't need to go buy some bigger wires to make all this happen. But yeah, just wanted to mention it. We're going to do an upgrade on this. It should be well worth it. It's going to be a long project, so I'm going to have to make multiple videos here to share it all. And yeah, Cool. We'll see how it goes.